Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're checking out a video titled Why Germany's Military Rebirth is a Total Nightmare for Russia. Oh shit, I didn't see that part. But yo, let me tell you something. Can I be real with you? There are a few military in this world that they just top dogs. And we're gonna kick the list off with obviously the United States. You know what I mean? Top dog. Certified. Been doing this shit. Honorable mention. I'm gonna say the British. You know why? Because they nasty work. I don't have to talk about what they've done to this world. The royal family, you know, those things that exist. I don't got to get into all of that, right? Obviously, we could go back in time and talk about some other military, so on and so forth. We do have Switzerland, you know, which, you know, the neutral guys. We do have those guys. But then we go China, we go North Korea, we go Russia, right? But we can't act as if, though it wasn't something that was thumbs up, though Germans aren't proud of it, Germans almost conquered the entire freaking world in World War II, right? Few mishaps and they lost it, right? It wasn't a proud moment, but we just have to be real. If Germans actually put, you know, everything together, Germans are a scary military. It's as simple as that. So shout out to the German military. I'm sorry that I had to talk about the negative past, but the truth is just the truth. You guys are badass and we're badass and still are badass. So yeah, forgive me. Hopefully that wasn't insensitive. You know what I mean? You know, because, you know what I'm saying. But either way, I'm really excited for this video. So without further ado, man, let's check it out. And yeah, let's go, boy.
The invasion of Ukraine has awoken a sleeping giant, and that giant is hungry and ready to fight for the peace that it believes should reign in Europe. In this video, we'll explore why Germany's military rebirth is a total nightmare for Russia. On May 28th, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz made a special announcement. Speaking directly to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Merz said that
well, okay, I was gonna say how tall is he? How short is Zelensky? But then I remember Germans are typically tall, so he probably like 6'4". I don't know, or it could be just that Zelensky is pretty short. I don't know. I really can't tell. But damn, he upped up. Look at that. Nah, it's crazy.
Germany is ready to work alongside Ukraine to help it build long-range missiles it can use to defend itself against Russia's forces. We want to talk about production, and we will not publicly discuss details, is all that Merz would share with the press. That alone represents a change in Germany's approach to the Ukraine war. In the past, Germany has been very transparent, some might say even overly transparent, about what it's doing to help Ukraine. That was a problem. By revealing how it helps, Germany was also providing Putin with the early stages of the blueprints he'd need to counter whatever Germany sent to Ukraine. Now, Germany is keeping everything under wraps. We can guess, though. The odds are that Germany is preparing to help Ukraine start building the devastating long-range Taurus missile inside Ukraine itself. That missile, which has a 310-mile range, would afford Ukraine the ability to target air bases, military installations, and so much more inside Russia itself. Merz also said that his decision is designed to show Putin that there are real consequences for his actions. And that's not all. Along with a promise to help Ukraine start building long-range missiles, Germany has also announced a bumper $5.6 billion aid package to Ukraine. Merz says that this money heralds the start of a new form of military-industrial cooperation between our two countries, when referring to Ukraine, while adding that this cooperation extends beyond helping Ukraine to build missiles domestically. The two will also be working together to build weapons in Germany, opening up the possibility that Ukraine may soon be able to use German factories to produce drones, artillery, and everything else it needs to defend against Russia. Don't underestimate the importance of this statement. Right now, Ukraine is trying to build weapons while facing constant aerial and ground bombardments from Putin's forces. Even one Russian missile breaking through Ukraine's defenses could be enough to ruin a manufacturing facility, limiting Ukraine's ability to defend itself in the process.
Thanks.
If Ukraine can transfer its domestic manufacturing to German facilities, that problem will disappear. Well, unless Putin decides to attack Germany. That's a possibility Germany is preparing for as well, as we'll explain later. Merz's statement was followed by Germany and Ukraine signing a...
I genuinely don't think Russia would try to attack Germany. Like, if Russia attacks Germany, obviously, that's it. Double whatever, World War III. That's what we're gonna have. But attacking Germany, I don't see that happening. Germany's too far deep inside of Europe. That's just gonna, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. If that makes any sense.
Memorandum of cooperation, with Germany saying that a significant number of weapon systems will be made by the end of 2025. The first batch is going to be ready for Ukraine to use in just a couple of weeks. When we say use, we mean Ukraine can fire its new missiles at any target it chooses in Russia. We know that because just a day before Merz's missile cooperation announcement, Germany's chancellor also revealed that Germany, along with France, the US, and the UK, have lifted all restrictions on how Ukraine can use the missiles it provides. Previously, Ukraine was told that it could only use Western-made missiles to strike specific targets. Typically, those targets were either inside the occupied Ukrainian territory that Russia holds or in border regions Russia was using to assault Ukraine. Now Ukraine can use Western missiles to hit Russia wherever it wants. Russia knows how bad this decision is for Putin. The Russian president's mouthpiece, Dmitry Peskov, has already lambasted the decision as dangerous, while claiming that it runs absolutely contrary to any future peace agreement with Ukraine. Of course, Peskov says all of this as Russian missiles continue to rain down on Ukraine's cities. But what we see here is that Russia is running scared. In this week alone, Germany has made several military announcements that showcase how seriously it's taking the threat Russia poses. That alone will be a nightmare for Putin. But the reality is that the Russian president's bad dream is just getting started. Putin now has to face up to the fact that his decision to invade Ukraine has sparked a series of developments in Europe that he may never have thought possible. Germany is at the forefront of those developments. A nation that for so long has tried to avoid building up its military for fear of giving off echoes of its last major military buildup during World War II is coming roaring back to the global stage. The shackles are being cast off. Germany's decision to help Ukraine build missiles while removing restrictions on those missiles is just a small part of a massive military revival that's only happening because Russia invaded Ukraine. And when we say massive, we may even be understating just what Germany is planning. Let's start with military spending. For decades, Germany has limited the amount of money it spends on defense. We can see that from its failure to adhere to NATO's recommendation that all of its member nations spend at least 2% of their gross domestic product, or GDP, on defense per year. Germany hasn't been doing that for a long time. As Reuters points out,
I had no idea. I know that Finland has been doing it, their part, which is very great. But I never knew Germany wasn't actually doing it. But the thing is, like, it's German military is very scary, you know. It's like, was it Mike Tyson who said something like, you know, like he cries before fights? I know I've heard the story before, like cries before fight because he's like, I'm trying to keep that beast inside. You know what I mean? Like, German military is nasty, bruh. Like, just, they are nasty. Okay? Like, man, waking them up is just not good. It's just not good, you know. It's not good. Plus, Russia knows this because Russia fought with the German military like so much. Even inside of Finland, Germany and Russia fought each other, like literally, right? There was a moment where Germany, in the World War II, where Germany conquered parts of Finland, which is the northern section, and Russia, you know, they were forced out because at that time Germany started to lose in World War II, right? And they actually burnt the buildings in North Finland, which is why I've always said to people, don't ever think, you know, that there was no culture in anywhere. Like, a lot of people say America doesn't have any culture, but I'm like, no, it does. It's just that it got destroyed. Old buildings, all of these, they existed. They just got destroyed. Right, because usually when someone conquers a place, they destroy the buildings to have no memories of what was there, which is very sad, you know, because displacement and so on and so forth. But that's really how this world works. The world has been going on and things exist, but they get destroyed once they're conquered.
2024 represented the first year that Germany hit the 2% target since the 1990s,
What?
showcasing how Germany's military has been on the decline for at least a couple of decades.
Damn,
in fact, the
bro.
last time Germany hit 2% of GDP spending was in 1991, according to Macro Trends. Ever since then, there has been a consistent downward trend in spending, with the lowest point coming in 2005, when Germany spent just 1.07% of its GDP on defense. The country got better from there, a little, From 2005 to 2022, it hovered around the 1.2% of GDP mark, sometimes dropping below and occasionally going a little bit higher. The most Germany spent during this period was 1.39% in 2022, still 0.61% lower than the NATO recommendation. None of this showcased a country that was taking its military and its role as one of Europe's leading powers very seriously. Accusations of freeloading, particularly from US President Donald Trump, were hard for Germany to argue against given its low military spending, and even when that country tried to do something about the problem, such as creating a law in 2023 that legally obligated Germany to hit 2% of GDP spending on defense, barriers arose. Germany ended up walking that law back, again demonstrating that it wasn't quite ready to meet the challenge that Putin's Ukraine invasion presented. That was all great for Putin. Germany, if it reached its full military potential, would represent the largest stumbling block Europe could present to Putin's plans for expansion. As long as Germany argued domestically over how much it spent on defense, keeping the numbers low as a result, Putin was happy. But things started to change last year. As we mentioned, 2024 saw Germany meet the NATO spending target for the first time since 1991. By the end of the year, the country was also experiencing a political shift that created massive problems for Putin. Former Chancellor Olaf Scholz is out. New Chancellor Friedrich Merz is in. And with Merz has come a transformation in Germany's defense spending that is going to put it on track to become Europe's strongest nation. On March 18th, Germany's lawmakers historically voted for a huge increase in spending that amounts to committing around $547 billion over the next few years to a special infrastructure fund. That decision was notable because this fund was exempt from Germany's strict debt rules that have kept its spending low for so long, with Merz hailing the decision as being massive for Europe. The decision we are taking today...
I personally do believe as well. Like, I'm not... okay, what Donald Trump said in terms of freeloading, whatever, with NATO, he has a point. But let's not focus on what Donald Trump said. Let's focus on Europe itself. Europe should have a strong military for themselves, you know? Like the United States, only, in my humble opinion, from a tactical standpoint, the United States cares about Europe and its other allies because its allies are close to its enemies, right? If Europe was behind the United States like Canada is, right? Well, Canada is not behind the United States, but if you get what I'm trying to say, right? It's not beside Russia, right? Or China or some of those are like that. I genuinely think that there would be no need, whatever, right? Because like, what's the purpose, you know? So I think that Europe should have a strong military to be able to stand for themselves individually, right? Like, you never know, man. Like, what if the NATO was just gone tomorrow, you know? You got to have a strong military for yourself, in my humble opinion.
Can be nothing less than the first major step towards a new European defense community, Merz exclaimed. He also made it a point that even nations that aren't part of the European Union will benefit from Germany's spending spree, indicating that there's a change in attitude in the country. Germany is no longer content to tag along as a freeloader. It wants to bring all of Europe, at least those countries that feel threatened by Putin, under its security umbrella. The law passed with a vote of 513 to 207, that also saw Germany relax its debt laws so that defense spending would no longer be subjected to the 0.35% of GDP limit on borrowing that they faced in the past. All Putin could do was watch. And Germany's increases in spending aren't going to end there. In May, Germany's Foreign Minister Johann Vadeful announced that Germany is going to push toward investing 5% of its GDP into defense by 2031. His claims come 1 month after Trump suggested that NATO nations should be hitting that figure. Vadeful says that Germany will hit its new 5% target by splitting its spending. Traditional military spending will account for 3.5% of the 5%, with the other 1.5% being dedicated to defense-related infrastructure. Assuming Germany follows through, it's essentially just committed to spending around $180 billion per year on its military by 2031. Russia is likely to spend around $135.8 billion on its military in 2025. Germany just said it's going to move beyond that figure at a time when Russia is embroiled in an active war and Germany isn't. Of course, spending a lot of money doesn't mean much if that money isn't spent well. Germany appears to have that aspect of its military revival covered. According to Forbes, the hundreds of billions of dollars Germany is committing to its military will essentially allow for a complete redesign of the Bundeswehr. Germany is going to buy more armored vehicles, build new air defense batteries, create more warships, and even shoot more spy satellites into Earth's orbit. It also plans to invest heavily in artificial intelligence and will equip its soldiers with radio jammers that can be used to send Russia's drones and missiles off course. Germany also plans to add around 20,000 new soldiers to its current standing force of 180,000, which will also allow it to create a mechanized brigade it can station in Lithuania. A Baltic state is a NATO ally and one of several nations that fear they may be next if Russia succeeds in its invasion of Ukraine. All told, Forbes says, the new spending will fund around a dozen new initiatives that all combine to strengthen the German army. Combine that with infrastructure spending that seems designed to turn Germany into NATO's central hub for a possible future war with Russia. What Putin is seeing here is a complete transformation in the German approach. Up until now, Germany has been happy to play a supporting role. We see that in the fact that it's Europe's largest single contributor to Ukraine. Those commitments aren't going to end, as noted by Merz when announcing the latest round of aid and the missile cooperation scheme. However, those contributions will now be made by a country that's investing so heavily in its military that by 2031, it'll be spending more than Russia is on defense. Putin now finds himself stuck in a nightmare. And here's why. We mentioned several times already that Germany's new spending commitments, along with its overall plan to revitalize its military, represent a massive shift in Germany's attitude. To understand why, we need to take a closer look at Germany's history.
They keep showing this damn building, and I'm sick seeing that damn building, because I want to ask, what building is that? Where is that? That looks freaking amazing, right? But I didn't want to interrupt the video because it's not about the building, right? It's about the military and what's going on. But dude, I'm very proud of Germany for taking this initiative to actually strengthen their military. I know it might be scary because you're like, we have a past, and you know, people might think this or that, but they can think whatever the hell they want. You know what I'm saying? Like, Germans know exactly why they have a strong military, right? We just have to try to separate the military from the citizens, because the citizens is the problem, right? Because if the citizens have some ideology, that can lead the military into doing bad things. Like the oath that you take as a server in the military should not, you know, be something that is personal, if that makes any sense. Personal, so like how you feel personally, that shouldn't be it. It should be, yo, we defending the country. It's a defense situation, you know what I mean? So it's not something like, oh yeah, we don't like, you know what I'm saying, we don't like the Jews, we don't like dumb folks, we don't like dumb folks, so we gonna just, you know what I'm trying to say? Because that's really how World War II was. It was just like, yo, I don't rock with dumb folks. I need that. It wasn't a defense situation, if you get what I'm saying. So if the military is targeting defense, then I don't see where's the fair. I don't see the need for that. But y'all can let me know. You guys are the Germans, and you guys probably have served in the military before, so let me know.
Of course, Germany's actions during World War II have had a massive impact on its hesitance in building a stronger military. The country has hamstrung itself in many ways, in addition to being subject to various treaties that prevented it from amassing as strong a military force as it had during the Nazi era. However, Germany's military culture, or lack thereof, goes a little deeper than that. Like many European nations, Germany found itself under the Soviet yoke during the Cold War era. It had a somewhat unique situation in which the country was divided into East and West. West Germany became part of the Western-led hegemony that arose after World War II, with East Germany laboring under Soviet influence. There was even a huge wall separating the two sides of the country in Berlin, the collapse of which signaled the end of the Soviet Union as a geopolitical entity. You could argue that the decades Germany spent divided into two similar but disparate nations arrested the country's development somewhat, especially on the military front. As other European nations established new cultural norms in the wake of World War II, Germany found itself first split and then reunified. It's technically only been a country for around 35 years, with the priority over those 3 decades naturally being to create a sense of unity and national identity that was robbed of Germany for so long. It has succeeded in many ways. Germany now has one of Europe's strongest economies, and it's become a major voice in both European and national communities. However, it could be argued that this intense focus on diplomacy and rebuilding a national identity led to Germany's military falling behind.
Yes.
We even got signs of this during the first couple of years of the Ukraine war, such as the walking back of the law that would have obligated Germany to spend 2% of its GDP on defense. Divisions still existed, only this time it was happening not because of the Soviet Union, but due to Germany being unsure about what its response should be to the neo-Soviet Union Putin is trying to create. With all of these recent military announcements, Germany finally seems to have found a path forward, and it's a path out of Putin's nightmares. where Russia's leader might have hoped to continue fostering division in Germany to prevent it from reaching its military potential, Germany has instead gone in the opposite direction. Strategically, it's leaving history, both in terms of its actions during World War II and the East-West Germany divide, in the past. The massive rearming we're seeing today is part of the dismantling of historical and fiscal taboos that have plagued Germany for decades. It essentially represents a culture change, a Germany that is again willing to militarize because it's convinced it's doing so for all the right reasons.
Exactly.
Nowhere is that cultural shift more visible than in Germany's youth. On March 31st, the BBC published an article in which it quoted several younger Germans relating their opinions on their country's military revival. Charlotte Kreft, who is an 18-year-old who previously held pacifistic views, seems to reflect the overall mood in the country. For a really long time, we thought that the only way to make up for the atrocities we committed in World War II was to make sure it never happened again, and we thought we needed to demilitarize, she tells the BBC. But now—
Exactly. Make sure it never happens again. Getting rid of the military is not going to prevent it from happening. Well, it might prevent Germany from being at the forefront and prevent Germany from being the one accused of that, right? But it won't prevent it. Like, there's other countries who are going to likely do it because there's always going to be that one psycho who's going to get into someone's head and make them feel as if they're a victim and as if they need to go eradicate everybody else, right? So that's not really where it's at. It's understanding who you are and what you stand for. Are you a military? Are you in the military, or are you a person who is trying to put this ideology or this belief in society to change people or get rid of people to allow some humans to be treated in an inhumane way? What is your goal? What do you stand for? That is the reality. But if the German military clearly stands for defense, then there's no issue. Be as strong as you want to be, because defense is simply defense. We're defending our country, which is Germany. It's that simple, right? And once it is that is all that matters. You take that oath, you go in the military, you say, yes, sir, this is what we're finna do. We're going to protect this country by any means, right? It's not a conquer situation. We're trying to, oh yeah, we don't like them folks over there, right? So I don't see an issue at all. Zero.
We are in a situation where we have to fight for our values, and democracy and freedom need to adapt. Her viewpoint is shared by another youngster named Ludwig Stein, who says, "There are lots of Germans who still feel strange about big investments in our military, but I think considering the things that have happened in the past few years, there's no other real option." Therein lies the nightmare for Putin. His Ukraine invasion has pushed Germany to the realization that it's not the country it was leading into World War II, and certainly isn't the divided nation with no real identity it became in the years that followed. Germany is instead a paragon of European democracy. It's proven this time and time again through its work with the European Union, NATO, and its many partners. Perhaps you could say that Germany's military revival is a sure sign that the nation has finally forgiven itself for its past. The rest of Europe already had, and now Germany is actively preparing for a fight against Russia. The massive investment being made into the Bundeswehr proves this. So too does the rhetoric coming out of Germany. Back in April, the Inspector General of the Bundeswehr, General Carsten Breuer, essentially said that Germany finds itself in a state where it both is and isn't at war with Russia already. The categories of peace, crisis, or war that we so like to use are not used by the Russian side, he said. Russia sees war as a continuum, and thus uses measures that can already look like war but probably are not war yet. Breuer is referring to the many hybrid attacks Russia uses to disrupt its enemies, which range from cyber attacks to cutting undersea cables. So a state is produced that is no longer completely peace, but also not completely war, and it's in this grey zone that we are operating, also with regard to Russia, Breuer concludes. The message to Putin is that Germany isn't being complacent anymore. It sees what Russia is doing to sow seeds of discord in Europe and even within Germany itself. If Russia wants to create this state of perpetual military uncertainty, Germany is going to be prepared if that state evolves into one more akin to traditional war. Merz makes that clear too. On May 14th, he announced his intention to transform Germany's military into the strongest Europe has to offer. The federal government will provide all the financial resources that the Bundeswehr needs to become the strongest conventional army in Europe, Merz claimed. This is more than appropriate for the most populous and economically strongest country in Europe. Our friends and partners also expect this from us, and what's more, they are actually demanding it. Days later, the new budgets we mentioned earlier in the video were announced. This quote also encapsulates Germany's changing attitude toward its military. Contrition is no longer on the table. Germany is prepared to step into the role of the European leader that is required of it by the very countries against which it has fought in the past. It's not quite there yet. Though Germany's finally hitting NATO's 2% of GDP target in 2024 led it to placing fourth, behind only the US, China, and Russia in military spending, decades of underinvestment have caused issues within the German military. Global firepower, which ranks 145 nations annually based on their military power, places Germany as the 14th strongest in 2025. That leaves it below other European partners such as France, the UK, Italy, and Turkey. Germany's goal now is to invest heavily and wisely to first bring itself into parity with those other nations, and then exceed their strength. And that's Putin's nightmare in a nutshell. Countries like France and the UK already took Russia seriously and are engaging in military strengthening of their own. With a resurgent power like Germany joining them, the prospect of Putin invading any more of Europe beyond Ukraine takes on a lot more risk. Russia won't be fighting a divided Europe. He'll face almost an entire continent united with a Germany that's stronger than it's been since World War II. And after Ukraine, with its military already weakened, that's a force that Putin can't hope to defeat. But what do you think about the nightmare Germany's military revival creates for Russia? Is it a nightmare from which Putin can wake up, perhaps due to Germany backing down from its big claims, or are the wheels unstoppably in motion for Germany to transform itself into the dominant military force it has been in the past? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Nah, it's unstoppable right now, bro. Ain't no stopping, bro. You already kickstart the car. You got to keep going. But I personally think that where Germany's headed is the right direction. Where else? Where else? You got to have a solid military to protect your country. It's as simple as that. I get the whole negative past with the German military. However, that German military does not exist anymore, and the oath that you take to join the military just has to be simply different. The military has to be held accountable and kept as the defense of the country. And I think it's that simple. It's all about leadership, you know? It's all about the leader who says, yo, this is what we're gonna do as the military, right? It's quite simple. The Germans did not invade and do all the things they did in World War II because the military guys are like, yeah, let's do that. No, they were being led. There was a leader, right? And once the leader realizes that things weren't going his way, and then he died, everything was over. It's as simple as that. So everything starts and ends with the leader. So I think Germany's in a good space, and I don't see that World War II thing happening to Germany anytime soon, or ever again, I should say. To another country, there's a high chance, because there are many countries out there who believe in conquering and getting rid of some things or some people. So with other countries, then yeah, it definitely will happen. But I don't see that for Germany, honestly. But y'all can let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. As usual, I'm out of here. Peace.